Today on Locked On Women's Basketball, we talked to Michigan freshman Syla Swords about her first year in the NCAA ahead of the Big Ten Conference as well as March Madness. We'll also talk about Syla's experience as the youngest Canadian basketball player to represent the country at the Olympics. Welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I am here with Syla Swords. She is a freshman at Michigan, about to head into her first postseason. Thank you so much for joining me, Syla.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So we're going to start talking about your first season at Michigan. You played high school basketball in New York. So I'm just wondering, my first question is, what's the biggest adjustment that you've had from transitioning from high school to college basketball?
The biggest difference has really been the amount of games we play and how quick the turnaround is. It feels like we're constantly scouting a new team, constantly watching film, 2 games a week, 2 practices between each game. So it's like your mind is always on. Even on the off days, you're thinking about the last game, you're thinking about what's next. So the schedule is just so much heavier.
Yeah, for sure. And is there anything about this season coming into it that surprised you?
Yeah, I think we surprised a lot of people just coming into what a new team Michigan basketball was, having only 4 returners because of the transfer portal, having 5 freshmen come in. We didn't even really know what to expect from ourselves. We knew that we had some good basketball players, but weren't really sure how we were going to be able to pull it together. So I think just the way that we've been able to adjust to each other so quickly and been able to play with the top teams, still looking to get some of those big wins in, but been able to compete with them and show them good games has been really exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what went into your decision to go to Michigan? Because I'm sure you had a lot of, top programs that you were deciding on. So what made Michigan the one?
Yeah, I grew up thinking I was always going to go to Laurentian University in my hometown, Sudbury, Ontario. That's where my dad coached. That's where both my parents went and played. So in my mind, that was going to be ideal. It was going to be so cool to be able to finally go there and wear that jersey. And then once I got recruited, it was I'm going to have options. And something growing up in a Northern Ontario town, really small, you always saw the Block M. People were saying, go blue. So it's a really world-renowned school globally, really, for their success athletically and academically. So that was really attractive to me, just knowing that they had, if you go to Michigan, you're already putting your foot in the door for so many opportunities. And then on top of that, I really connected with Coach Rico and what she's been able to do with her program. And they've had a lot of success in the past, getting to Elite 8s and Sweet 16s, but still haven't really been able to make it over that hump. So I was really just excited to be a part of a program that is going to do a lot of firsts in the future.
Yeah. And how close is where you're staying in Michigan to Sudbury?
It's an 8-hour drive. Okay. Which is still a while, but not terrible compared to thinking about going on the West Coast or down south.
Yeah, of course. And of course you have Natalie Achonwa there as your coach after being your teammate. So what's it like having her there, and how is it switching from being teammate to now coach?
Yeah, we like to joke about it. As much as Nat was my teammate, she was just as much my coach as we were playing together, always telling me what to do in a good way. I respect her. She's done so much for the game of basketball, not just in Canada. I remember her telling me at Olympic training camp, just walking on the bus, and she casually said, "Sai, I'm going to coach you next year." And I looked at her, I said, "Nat, what do you mean you're going to coach me next year?" But yeah, that's how I found out. And I was so excited because having Natalie Achonwa in your life for, I guess it was 2 years at that point, and then knowing I'm going to have a future with her, to be able to study her and be able to learn from her even more than I already have. It's just such an exciting opportunity. So it's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you're entering your first postseason. Obviously, you've come from big moments, Olympics, trials, stuff like that. Of course, we all remember that day that we had to wait to see if you would make it into the Olympics. That was a very entertaining day. But what are you most looking forward to as you enter your first college postseason?
Yeah, I'm excited to just be a part of it all. Women's basketball has been on such a great trajectory recently, in the stage that they're on. Being able to watch it from afar on TV, seeing the upsets and the Cinderella stories, it's just really exciting to be a part of an exciting event and something that gains so much traction and attention.
Yeah, for sure. And coming from Canada, you were in Sudbury, and then you were in New York for a bit, and now you're in Michigan. So obviously, you still have a lot of Canadian in you. So is there anything that your teammates say, like, oh, like, that's so Canadian of you? Like, people, for example, always say that I have an accent, which I'm like, I don't have an accent. Like, it's not. So is there something that your teammates are kind of like, oh, Syla, that's so Canadian?
Yeah, it's the same with me. I come to the States and everyone says that I have a Canadian accent, but then I go back home to my friends and they say I sound American. So I feel like it's like in between either way. The stereotypical, I'll say A every now and then. They'll joke about that. Even calling the US the States. Apparently they don't do that over there. So
when I started learning that they didn't call it the States, I was like, then what do you call it? Yeah, that's funny. But and then you still have quite a while left at Michigan, and could you kind of break down, I guess, some of your goals that you have maybe for yourself and your team as you continue on with your time?
Yeah, I mean, we want to win as many games as possible with our freshman class that we have. If we stick together, I really do believe that we can do a lot for the program. We can do a lot for Coach Rico. So, winning a championship is always number one in our minds every time we come into practice. Big Ten championship, Big Ten regular season. And then me personally, I wouldn't say any specific goals, but I just want to be able to see an improvement in some aspect of my game over my 4 years here.
Yeah. And I mean, your dad is a coach, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Olympic history in a bit, but I hear from coaches' kids a lot that they kind of see the game differently. Is your dad kind of like still in your ear about stuff, or does he kind of like take a step back now that you're in college?
I mean, he's been the same with not forcing me into loving the game in any way. He'll never take me to the gym forcefully. He will only watch film with me, take me to shoot if I ask him. Every single time it has to be, hey, Dad, you want to come shoot with me? And I think that's been great. Both my parents really have done a great job of letting me find my own love for the game and my own passion for the game. But I'll get a text after every game saying, great job, like you played hard. And I'll say, no, but what did you really think? Like, I have to push him a little more for that. But yeah, he's always in my ear.
Oh, that's nice. And I mean, you and your sister are kind of coming up as this duo. And recently she kind of announced her top 5 schools that she's thinking of, and one of them was Michigan. And, are you in her ear at all? Or are you just kind of letting her do her own thing?
No, I'm really trying to let her have her own process, because I was able to have my own process and I don't want to be an influence in any way. Obviously, it would be amazing for her to come here. I think we do a lot of great things together, but I want her to make her decision and fall in love with the school on her own, and be able to make her own dreams, her own school.
Yeah. And, now that we're kind of coming to the end of your freshman season, do you have one specific game or one specific memory from the season that you're going to look back on and really remember?
I think our tournament in Florida was really exciting. That was right before we got our first ranking. And it was just kind of coming up, people doubting our team, people doubting Coach Rico after all the transfers happened, and just saying that we were ranked in the top 25. I think that was a really big thing for our program. And a lot of people showed up in different ways in those 2 games. And it was fun being in Florida, coming out of the cold in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, seriously. It's probably about the same cold as Toronto right now, so I feel you. Yeah. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Syla Swords about her experience being part of the Canadian Olympic basketball team at the Paris Olympics. Stay tuned. We'll be back. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 2024-2025 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off, up to $10 off, the next day from noon until midnight. Need a quick and easy lunch the next day? With Dash Pass, get your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. So now moving on to talking about the Olympics and Canada basketball, you've obviously been a part of the Canadian senior national team for a few years now, kind of starting from the Olympic trials and then ending up being able to kind of finish the cycle playing at the Paris Olympics. And your dad also played for the 2000 Olympic team. So if people don't know, Canada made the Olympics for the men's side in 2000 and then didn't make it again until 2024. So it's kind of this like full circle of, family ties to this program. Your sister has also played for the youth programs in Canada basketball as well. So at what point in your life did you kind of think, oh, like this is something that I could do and I want to play for Canada?
I knew I wanted to go to the Olympics before I even chose basketball. I knew I wanted to get there, seeing my dad's highlights, hearing about his stories, and he still gets emotional to this day talking about his experiences. So really just learning about his pride for our country and what joy he had representing Canada on the world stage, like something like the Olympics, it was something I always knew I wanted to do. And basketball just seemed like the most viable option.
Yeah, and I'm assuming he went with you to France.
Yeah.
Family. So like, what was that experience? Did he kind of like, how was that to like experience that with him?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard because I was in the game. I remember just listening to the national anthem and I was trying to find them in the stands. And it's hard to do when there's like 32,000 people and it's dark and it's going up. And then I finally spotted them and I just had a big smile on my face that I saw the same in them. So it was just so exciting to be able to kind of reflect his journey a little bit and say like, yeah, I'm doing this for you, Dad. I'm doing this for you, Mom. I'm doing this for my sister too. And knowing that they did it before, I said I wanted to follow in his footsteps and kind of was able to do the same.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, you were the youngest player, not only on the team, but you're now the youngest player to ever represent Canada for basketball at the Olympics. And, despite the team not getting the result that we were hoping for, do you have any favorite memories from just like being with the team there?
I would say my favorite memory starts even before we arrived in the Olympic Village was that day you were talking about when we found out that Canada was going to the Olympics. And what really made it so special is that, the final roster hadn't even been decided yet. Everyone was truly so happy because Canada women's basketball had made it to the Olympics, even though it wasn't the way that we thought it would happen. I remember just celebrating in the food room with Shayna Pellington and Von Ejim at Gonzaga right now. We were the only ones left because the vets were really upset, a lot of them going to be their last Olympics, and thinking that they had fallen short. And we went up to their rooms, we're banging on the doors, and we're like, no, we're going. But I think it really just showed how genuine our intentions were as a team, our pride for Canada and our love for Canada, and knowing like we helped Canada do something and get to the 2024 Paris Olympics, and not necessarily even knowing we were going to be a part of the roster ahead of that.
Yeah, it's funny hearing the different experiences of that day, because I talked to Kayla Alexander and she was like, I just went up to my room and I did not talk to anyone and I didn't want to see it. And then there's that video of the three of you like in the game, the Spain and Hungary game ends and you realize that you've made it by like 1 point or something. And it's just like the most exciting, like happy moment. So yeah, it's definitely that day seeing everybody's reactions like on social media and, the other planes come down and then Sammy Hill does the worm and it's, so yeah, I think, that team is definitely really close. And I mean, we talk about the future now. You're saying some of the vets, it would have been their last cycle. And now, some of the conversation is going towards, okay, what's the next version of this team we're going to see? And that kind of revolves around people like you and Aaliyah Edwards and Avery and Toby and even your sister. So, what's your relationship with your generation of Canadian basketball players, and like what excites you about the future of Canada basketball?
It's always special to be able to play with your own age group, people that you've been playing against, grown up playing against, and going at each other on the court, finally being able to wear the same jersey with each other is really fun. I just think back to the U19 World Cup, even the U17 World Cup that just happened this past year. Canada's put a lot of countries on notice from a junior level, from a cadet level, and to be able to see these players, the younger ones, and then be able to combine them with people like Aaliyah Edwards, people like Marissa Russell, who have kind of been in the senior team and are a little too old for the younger cycle. It's going to be a really exciting type of basketball to watch for Canada.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, of course, one thing that is really cool to hear, I heard once on a Michigan broadcast that you were talking about how you learned your shot technique from Bridget Carlton. And so like what, that included, but what little things did you pick up playing with these like high elite WNBA athletes while you were, doing all these camps and tournaments?
Yeah, I was constantly picking their brains, probably a little annoying at times, but I tried to sit next to somebody different at every meal to be able to make connections with them and hear about their stories, where they liked playing pro and why, who they didn't like playing with, get some stories on the WNBA drama that's going on in those crates. So really asking questions, anything and everything I was asking anybody about, because I just wanted to be a sponge and pick up and learn as much as I could, because I was literally in a room with people I grew up idolizing. I did projects on Natalie Achanwa. I wore Kia Nurse elite jersey in my AAU team. So I just really wanted to take advantage of being around people who had experienced things and lived through things that I want to do in the future.
Yeah. And I mean, you have the high school experience and now you're in college, but was that kind of your first experience playing on a team that, say, was doing a lot of like media days and like traveling and all of that stuff?
Yeah, I would say so, but I was not by any means at the forefront of any type of media they were doing. I was probably the last name called, take one picture and get out so that Nat could come in and take her pictures. But really just the support staff around you and the resources we had, I would say that was the biggest difference. Therapy, whenever there were 2 people on staff every time, we had any type of food you could imagine, always healthy versions, any type of, drinks, power bars, energy drinks, and then treatment versions like Normatec. So many expensive things that I'd never even heard of before were now at my fingertips, really, as a high school kid. And I took advantage of all of it every night after practice.
Yeah, for sure. I know I'm friends with Muad, who is the photographer for Canada. And I mean, I'm sure just having him like following around taking pictures, you're like, oh yeah, these are going to be great. My friends are going to be like, oh, these are great pictures.
Yeah, I still remember when he gave me like a GoPro and told me I had to film a day of my life. I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but okay, I'll carry it and try my best.
Yeah, I think that was the day you were doing your algebra homework on the plane. I remember seeing that. That was a funny one. He when we go to games and stuff, he's always, everybody's like, oh, take a picture. And I'm like, oh man, like you got to start charging for these things. But yeah, I think it just goes to show like Canada basketball is such like a close community. There's so many people. I think people think these big basketball federations are, just like big businesses, but at the end of the day, like the Canadian basketball community is just like so tight knit. And I feel like that almost like makes the experience a little bit, I don't know, feels more like homey. I don't know if you feel the
for sure. And I think what's so unique about it is that extends from the cadet level all the way to the senior team. Even looking at our Olympic team, we had high school kid, we had college kids, we had pros, we had 4-time Olympians all together in one section. So the reason why I was able to integrate is because you feel like you're getting the same thing out of every single team that you play on, and you're getting prepared for the next level every time you wear a Canadian jersey. And the support that you have from everyone, no one's threatened by anyone's presence, but you're still expected to show up and to push everyone every day. So really a family culture that's created through Canada basketball, it does make it seem like a homey atmosphere.
Yeah. And of course, like the last tournament you played at was in the summer. It was the Olympics. You're going into college. Did any of your teammates give you like, okay, here's some college advice?
It was hard coming in at first because they had all been together through the summertime. So I felt like a bit of an outsider at times because they'd done all the hard training, they'd done all the conditioning together, and I was just coming in like, hey, I'm still a high school kid. Like I'm still like, give me some type of advice. I don't know what I'm doing. But I remember Jordan Hobbs did a really great job of welcoming me in. She had me over for breakfast within one of the first 2 weeks of me getting here and just kind of, talked to me, calm me down, said like, everything's gonna be okay. We got you. We're all happy to have you here. So just small interactions like that don't really seem super meaningful at the time. But when you look back at it, it was, that was powerful.
Yeah. And I'm sure coming in like late like that, you're kind of like, but in the long run, it's just like a few days or a few weeks. And then you build those relationships. And, what So what, like, other than like Nat, of course, because she's with you every day, which other ones of your like Canadian teammates do you keep in touch with, and like, do you keep tabs on while they're playing other places?
Yeah, I try and talk to everybody, touch base with everyone, reply to a story, say good game, or I talk to Cass a lot, she's at Notre Dame right now. So asking her how her team's doing, getting some scouts on some teams if she's willing to give them.
Yeah.
I joke with Kia a lot. She likes to bug me, but all in good fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I keep tabs on everybody.
Nice. Yeah. I talked to Avery the other day, and she was saying how you were kind of helping her out at camp last summer, like, because you had been there before, and just kind of being someone there to kind of help her through her first like senior women's experience. So, yeah, kind of, I guess, just like relates to the whole like family topic as well. So, coming in as someone who had been to the Olympics, like, I feel like that's something that has kind of like come with you into college. Do you find that it's kind of like helped or even like hindered? Do you think like because you have that name that people are say like scouting you more, or do you think that it's kind of just helped you have more experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely helped, from giving me more confidence coming into games, coming into big matchups, to just like actually improving my skills. I was practicing with WNBA players every day for 3 or 4 months straight. So you're going to get better. Whether you try to or not, you're going to have to get better. And so that's really helped a lot, even from an IQ pace. The game is so much faster. It's at the pro level. So that's helped me a lot to adjust as well. So definitely helped.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people, women's college basketball is like just rising. I think there's just like so much more like media, so much more attention, more people are tapping in. So and I feel like a lot of people don't really understand what it's like to be a college athlete, especially at your level, D1, you're traveling. So if you could kind of give a very like brief, like day in your life, almost like what goes on in your day?
Yeah, I mean, you can be at the gym anywhere from 4 to 8 hours a day. Sometimes we'll have an individual lift, an individual workout. We'll have a film session, a team workout, and then we'll have a team lift after, and then maybe another film session depending on who we're playing. And then on top of all of that, you're still a student. And at the University of Michigan, you don't get to skip classes. You don't get to not turn in assignments. So you're going to class from 8:30 to 1 p.m., from 9 to 12 every single day, 5 days a week. And so it's really demanding, especially me coming off of the summer. I was thinking, yeah, I came off the Olympics, I'm going to be able to handle anything. But really, like, I wasn't doing any school over the summertime. And I forgot that I'm also a student, not just an athlete. And I'm not a pro like everybody else who just gets to play basketball and go home. So that was really like a big reminder and eye-opener at the time.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, Michigan at the beginning of the season, like they kind of debuted your new locker room and all of that stuff. And, as someone who kind of came, up doing high school and then, had a little bit of that pro experience, how much does it matter to really invest in the women's basketball facilities in like a college or even a pro team?
I mean, I just think back to growing up in Canada in that Laurentian University gym. It did the job. It had the glass backboards and everything, but you step 1 foot across the border and you're like, oh, this is different. Sports are different here. You have $500,000 locker rooms. You have shooting guns on every single court. It's just so different, the resources they have. And that's why they've been so good at producing such top talent, is because they have the places and the resources to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And, coming into, obviously you're still in your first year of college and eventually looking forward to the WNBA. I mean, there's so many teams now, there's expansion teams happening. If you could get drafted today, do you have like a top team that you'd be like, oh, I want to get drafted there?
Toronto for sure. I don't know if I can say that answer because they're not actually a franchise yet fully.
But by the time you get there, they will be.
Yeah. And then New York. I love my time in New York. There's a lot of great people there that I made connections with. So New York.
Yeah, that's awesome for sure. Coming up next on Locked On Women's Basketball, we're going to get into some fun questions with Michigan freshman Syla Swords. Stay tuned. Running a small business means that you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. As your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number. That's where OpenPhone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, you get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. OpenPhone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. If you miss a call, no problem. The automated messages are sent directly to the customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, OpenPhone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's OPENPHONE.com/lockedonnba for 20% off 6 months. openphone.com/lockedonnba. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. All right, so we're gonna kind of switch over and do a fun little like speed round. So I'm gonna ask you questions, and you're just gonna say the first thing that comes to mind. Okay. So Tim Hortons or Dunkin' Donuts?
Tim Hortons.
Yeah. What's your order?
A farmer's wrap.
Oh, those are good with the hash brown. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ketchup or all dressed chips?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's funny because my first trip, my mom came over, I had her bring ketchup chips. And the second trip, I had her bring all dressed. Yeah. So probably ketchup.
Ketchup, yeah, that's a good choice. It has to be Lay's, though.
Yes, only Lay's.
Only Lay's. Morning class or night class?
Morning class.
Yeah. What's your favorite junk food?
Chocolate.
Yeah. If you didn't play basketball, what sport do you think you would play?
I'd probably be a runner, long distance.
Fun.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite WNBA player?
Kia Nurse was my idol growing up.
Yeah, that's a good one. Favorite NBA player?
Steve Nash.
Nice. Yeah. If you're playing one-on-one, who's winning? You or Savvy, your sister?
Me.
Yeah.
Totally. Easily.
Yeah. Easy. Yeah. Okay. You're not letting her win anything?
Not worried.
No. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Syla. It was nice to chat. And I mean, best of luck going into the tournaments coming up.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. Thank you for watching Locked On Women's Basketball. Check us out next time. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm Chelsea Leite, and don't forget to check out the other Locked On networks on YouTube and anywhere you listen to podcasts.